The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
We welcome back to this week's show its most regular guest. That would be United States Congressman Dan Meuser of the 9th Congressional District. Dan just drove 5 hours, leaving the Capitol after casting his historic vote in the United States Capitol House of Representatives to reopen government. And fresh from that vote, he is in studio with us today to talk about the shutdown, the 8 brave Democratic senators who voted in the Senate to end the filibuster, and now, more importantly, where America must go from here.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Congressman, welcome back to the Volpe Report, and welcome back, and I'm glad safely from your trip. You turned the back and forth in less than 24 hours, Washington, D.C., and then back to be in studio today after your historic vote last night.
Yeah.
And so welcome back, and congratulations on making history, the longest shutdown in the history of the United States. And you were one of the votes to open it back up. So start right there and the experience and what you thought about this whole process.
Well, always an honor to be with you, Chuck, my friend.
My pleasure.
And, it was one of the worst scenes the last 43 days that I've experienced in now my 7 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. The level of falsehoods, the level of hypocrisy, frankly, just the lies were beyond frustrating. It was just a deliberate attempt to deceive the American people and engage in a shutdown of our government, where I said in my floor speech last night, no gain, only pain.
Right.
And the pain was extensive. I mean, look at the airports. Look at the money for SNAP. 1.3 million people were furloughed. 1.3 million people didn't receive paychecks for 6 weeks. So, and all of this was done for what? For what? Because Schumer had political troubles, so he needed to be a tough guy.
The radical wing of his party.
And you know where he is now? Half of them want to get rid of him
Anyway.
because he supposedly now caved, which he did,
Right.
Last night, and he allowed 8 of his Senate members to vote because, of course, we needed 60.
Right.
You know, sometimes the Democrats, in part of their falsehoods, like saying, you control the government, this is your shutdown. No, we needed 8 members of the Senate to vote with us.
Because the filibuster rule in the Senate, you do not have to deal with in the House.
That's right. We needed 50% plus one
Right.
in the House.
Right.
There we needed 60%, but that's how the Senate rules work. And so they want to run them out of town for that, which is fair.
Right.
The other half want to run them out because what a mess they got them into in the first place.
Of course.
Because this thing delivered nothing good. And in the end, they received nothing for it, except a promise, which we said 6 weeks ago, that will work on what I tend to call the Unaffordable Care Act. You know, it's hysterical. Last night, we're debating, right? And they're up there, health care for America, premiums are going up, costs are going up.
Free 4
this
times.
isn't right. You're not helping the situation. So I get up there and I say, you know what? If this were a library, Mr. Speaker, their side would be fiction, our side would be nonfiction. And I went on to state that, but the only thing that is true coming out of them is their incessant criticism of the health care plan known as Obamacare that they created. Premiums from Obamacare have gone up 75%, but that's the least of it. The subsidies from the American taxpayer went up 150% since the inception of the Unaffordable Care Act. And you even have Democrats saying, we failed to control costs on health care. And as I said to you earlier, in the words of that eloquent Senator John Kennedy, duh.
Yeah. Thanks for the help. So you can't make it up, Dan.
Yeah.
You can't. You know, one of the things you made a great point there, and I want to bring this back and with emphasis. All you had to do was listen to over about a 30-year period, because Schumer has been in Congress one way or another almost 50 years, I guess. He, over the 30 years, has given somewhere between a dozen and 15 eloquent, intelligent speeches through the years when the Democrats were in charge, when the Republicans were in charge, back when the Democrats, back to the Republicans, and all those speeches he gave on the Senate floor, and then as leader of the Democrats in the Senate floor, did one thing. You cannot shut down the government to achieve political ends. It's a deliberative body. We debate politics, political issues. That's what we're here to do. But what we cannot do is hold the American people hostage. It never prevails. It never wins, including, Dan, and I know you know this past March, a few short months ago, when he voted, to much Democratic criticism, to open the government, to release the 60 votes, to move forward a clean resolution to pay the government until September 30th, when all of a sudden, after 30 years and 15 speeches, he had an epiphany. Oh, now all of a sudden, well, we have to do this. Garbage. Garbage in, garbage out.
The radical left is leading the traditional, or even just the modern day Democrat Party. It's being led by the extremists. It's being led by them in the House. They wanted to continue this. They all well, we had 6, I think, Democrats vote with us last night. Just 6. They whipped the vote, which means they want to make it mandatory to vote no. They wanted all of this to continue. They wanted the headaches, not just headaches, safety concerns, delays, cancellations, people's trips and money being lost. Back to the SNAP, Capitol Police weren't being paid. Customs, Border Patrol agents haven't been paid in 6 weeks. Okay, and so the military wasn't being paid. And they all voted, with the exception of 6, to continue this. And the reason is to somehow gain favor with the radical left of their party. And here's the problem. We see it on the House floor. We see the extremism. I mean, they wanted to shut down the government. That would be equivalent to us of saying we were going to shut down the government unless they completely redid everything that the crazy Biden administration began implementing. Okay, guess what? They won the election. All we could do is try our best to stop it and enhance it or improve it or correct it. And we did, and mitigate the type of spending they wanted to do. But you can't shut down the government and hold everything hostage based upon the policies that they're trying to implement. But I'll tell you something, it's even further than that. Look at all the disturbances in the streets. Look at all the hostility. Look at all the violence. All right?
They're condoning it.
It starts at the top. They are condoning it. I mean, here you got governors in Illinois saying, leave our criminals alone. There's no crime here in Chicago. Chicago and you know where else? Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not far behind. This is the anarchy that they think is what they want to engage in, because the Trump train, I'll say it, and that probably really bothers them when I say that, those that are on the left wing out there, is rolling forward. So that's how they need to stop it, through this hostility. I mean, can you believe what we see on the news with that level of hostility? Because they disagree with what Republicans or Christians or whomever have to say. Therefore, they throw rocks at them and want to hit them and stop them from speaking.
They fund No King rallies around the country. They have called rallies right in Washington where they were actually calling for people to take to the streets to shut down Washington. That's worse than anybody said about January 6th.
And I have never heard one, and you know, I denounced the violence of January 6th, every opportunity. Every Republican I know denounced the violence.
Of course. I get on the show.
When was the last time you heard a Democrat leader, elected official, denounce any of the violence that's taken place?
No.
Talk about pretending something doesn't exist, you know, while our eyes are not deceiving us.
The hypocrisy, Dan. One other, a couple points. You said so many good things there, but one of the points is that I've been strong on my views in the show, is the hypocrisy of Democrats. During the Biden administration, in my view and others, one of the worst administrations in the history of the country. In fact, we're not sure for pretty much the 4 years he was there if he was even president. He was auto-penned, and whoever was controlling that, God only knows.
There's just no question.
But either way, the things they did the open border, the letting gang members, the fentanyl, this human trafficking, they let come across our border, they welcome them.
Yeah.
All of that you were and I found offensive, many Republicans did and conservatives. Then it goes beyond that. The trillions, even when key members like Larry Summers, who was an eminent Harvard economist, PhD, who was President Barack Obama's Treasury Secretary.
Skyrocket inflation. Nah, don't worry.
He said, don't do it. He said, don't do it. They did it anyway. But the point I'm making, with all of this travesty that had both of us ready to gag, 13 times during Biden's Democratic presidency, and when they controlled the whole government like you do now, that you guys saw 13 continuing resolutions come, not to the Congress, but to you, to the Senate. 13 times the Republicans said, no, we cannot shut down the government.
Right.
So to say that, oh, this is something that always happens, no. Under the Biden administration, 13 times out of 13 times, even though you guys hated what was coming before you, it was the will of the voters. They elected them in, and you continued to pass. They're the ones that said.
And we didn't want to pass those CRs. They
course.
were their CRs. That was not much of my base wanted to shut down the government. I heard it all the time. The president was telling us, President Trump was telling us, let the government shut down, and yet we still voted. Those who say, oh, you always vote with the president. Look, I believe in the president's policies, and I'm with him on his plan to make America as great as it should be. But if you don't think I don't speak and try to enhance and improve different policies, I say to him, why do you think I meet with his cabinet secretary so often? But in those cases too, he would say shut it down. But we didn't because nobody wins.
And you harm and hurt the American people you're supposed to help.
That's right. Their policies should be very troubling. But what they do, Chuck, and how they were pretty successful this past Tuesday in the election, fear-mongering. Think about it. Everything they do is about fear-mongering. Right. They'll tell you President Trump's a king. Now I had one of the news shows on. Now they're saying he's a lame duck. 2 days ago he was a king. Now he's a lame duck because he had his eyes like half shut in a shot.
Well, remember they started with Hitler and fascist. Yeah. Remember that he was Hitler.
Yeah. All this fear-mongering that takes place, right? We're gonna be killing people by rooting waste, abuse, and fraud out of the Medicaid system. They're fear-mongering when they say all people are going to die because we're going to require those between ages of where you can work and have no disabilities and no dependents that you need to have some sort of work requirements. It's all fear-mongering, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that buy into it. How the tariffs were going to send inflation through the roof. When was the last time, and talking about affordability, under President Trump, the average inflation rate has been 2.5%. You know what it was? The average under Biden?
Well, I know it peaked at 9 or 10.
It peaked at 9. Average was double that, 5%. Okay, 20% over the course of his 4 years in office. How many Democrats did you hear talking about affordability or issues then?
They used to say, well, the stock market's doing good.
Yeah.
The job growth is there. Wages are good. Yeah. Then you go get your grocery bill or go to put gas in your car, and the truth hits you right in the face.
We, however, need to do a better job presenting our plan, the goals, and the true results of what those goals are going to be. And I know now, their attempt on the shutdown, it wasn't just Schumer. I didn't say the second piece. The second piece, the reason they did this was to stop, well, I sort of mentioned the Trump train. Of course. To stop the agenda from being so effective, to stop the investment that's taking place, to stop the new manufacturing, to stop the energy production and how energy costs are coming down. And that's going to lead to a far more affordability of all products, to stop the peace deals being made, to stop our economy from strengthening. That's what they are doing. And they sidetracked us. But guess what? Fasten your seatbelts because the next 2-3 years are going to be outstanding for America.
Well, we're here today with United States Congressman Dan Meuser, and we're discussing his trip home today to shoot this show from the historic vote they took to open the government up. And when we come back, we're going to talk about now going forward. There are issues on the agenda, including the cost of health care that we everybody knows has to be dealt with. To be clear, as you heard Senator McCormick say last week on this show on the same exact subject matter, we understand what the American people are dealing with. They feel the pain and they have solutions to it. But again, to remind people, they were not going to do it through extortion. They were not going to do it at gunpoint, being held hostage by the Democrats who were voted by the people out of power. That didn't happen by magic. The people's will was they not be in power, and they chose that bad, dastardly tactic, which hurt so many millions of Americans. But having said that, we'll be back right after this break with Dan Meuser.
There are more places you can see the Volpe Report. Watch every Sunday morning at 10:30 on Fox 56 or watch on YouTube at the Volpe Report. More ways to watch. Still the same premier political talk show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians.
Welcome back. Again, we're here today with United States Congressman, 9th Congressional District, correct?
Correct.
Dan Meuser, and my good friend, as I always add to the festivities. And we're going to now talk about, and what we had talked about a little off air, the shutdown is now over. America is back to moving again. We've come out of that timeout, and the ball's back in play. So you know there are issues we have to deal with. Healthcare at the top of the list. We'll start there. But there's other talking points about what we need to do as a country moving forward and what the Republic agenda will be. You have the floor.
Well, thanks. Number one, I think it's growing our economy because we're running deficits that are very large. You know, under Biden, they were much larger. They're already coming down. So we're going to do it two ways. We're going to have responsible reductions, and we need growth, our GDP growth. The president is determined to grow our economy, primarily manufacturing. And in a way, you know, it's a term that people don't like so much, or some don't anyway, but supply side economics, okay? And that's why interest rates need to come down. That's why Jerome Powell needs to, you know, kind of get his head out of the sand as well. And I know him well. So as investment in capital investment can take place, and we bring manufacturing back to the United States, as is happening, and we bring in all that foreign money that you also see, so as they're investing, so as they avoid the so-called tariffs. That's not the only reason they're doing it. They're doing it because America is a great market, and that investment will prove to deliver an ROI. Business doesn't do anything.
ROI?
Return on investment.
Okay,
Business doesn't do anything, right, without return on investment. Government, a whole different story. That's why you have to have limited government, and government needs to stay out of the economy as much as possible. You know, it's interesting. Here you have the president doing certain things with Intel and NVIDIA, and people are saying, oh, how dare he? How dare he lend money and expect a return on that? Are you kidding? That's the smartest thing that you could do. Why would the American taxpayer dollars go towards just subsidies that go nowhere and not expect it to have some sort of reasonable return? So he's running things very, very much like a business, and this is going to be very important. But on the other side of it, we have a lot of waste in our government. We have a lot of abuse. We have a lot of fraud. Even on the healthcare end, I was actually surprised because Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, who we all know, stated the other day that within our Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, he thinks there's as much as 20% waste, abuse, and fraud.
Wow.
I always estimated about 10%. And some people would say that's high, some people would say that's low. He's saying 20%. So you're talking about over $300 billion. Now, it's never going to be zero. Right. Oh my God, we should be able to cut it by a lot.
Right.
So maybe it would only be like 4 or 5% perhaps. But with AI systems and IT systems and everything else, okay, we can get this. We could rid ourselves of those who are overly abusing our system. Did you see? I don't know if you saw. Brooke Rollins came out with yesterday.
No.
She said there were literally somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 billion worth of SNAP payments going to people that are using two names, so doubling up on getting the SNAP benefits, and illegals on it, right? So there is so much money that can be controlled and be handled in a proper way. So we save these programs, not push people off them. Those who are eligible, we need to save the programs, such as Medicaid with the work requirements I stated and all. Nobody's getting thrown off. And I have to say this. You know the commercial they're running on Rob Bresnahan, my colleague?
Which one?
Yeah, right.
They've been killing him.
It's 100% false. Okay, I guarantee you, I'll state this.
Which
Put
commercial
my
is
name
it?
on it. The one where there's a woman who should be ashamed of herself with a disability that comes out and says, "Oh, I'm going to lose my Medicaid due to Rob Bresnahan," and all that, and the greatest Medicaid cuts ever. It's not going to be. There won't be any Medicaid cuts. What we're doing is trying to make sure illegals aren't on it, which the Democrats want, and those who are truly eligible for Medicaid receive it. And yes, having some very reasonable work requirements with all kinds of waivers associated with it if somebody for some reason can't engage in the minimal, even volunteer work or schooling or anything for 20 hours a week. So anyway, that's where our politics has gone to. It's not like a little shady or a little,
No, it's a gushing chest wound.
Right. It's completely false, not just even misconstrued. I mean, reversed, faked, made up. But anyway, all that being said, so these are the things that need to get done. And so you talk about healthcare. Healthcare is 1/6 of our economy. You're talking about, what is that? $4 trillion. Yeah. Okay, and the president's got a plan. Look, the ACA is far from perfect. We said that it's terrible actually, but some of it is okay. And we were just talking about this off the air. Yeah. Like you were saying, hey, we should start at the beginning. And I'm saying, we got to take steps. Let's keep the good parts.
Right.
Okay. We don't want anybody to be afraid or think they're going to lose something.
Like, for example, just to interrupt real quick, one of the good parts is you can't deny people for pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely.
They're entitled to health care.
Absolutely.
Everybody agrees.
Yeah.
Democrats lie about Republicans saying, no, they're going to throw people with, of course not.
Right.
No one is for that. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're not interrupting. You're adding to it. And yeah, the waste, abuse, and fraud, but the things the president's doing, demanding transparency in costs, people care. If one thing costs $8,000 and then at the same hospital it's $4,000, that should certainly make a difference. And when people have healthcare savings accounts, we need to continue to develop those. The president is working on, we are working on, not just the president, on the PBMs, the pharmaceutical buyer management, right?
Yeah.
The middleman between insurance companies and pharmacies and the government that's taking in like 15% of it all when it comes to pharma. And what you saw, what he's doing in reducing pharmaceutical costs.
Of course, significantly.
By 40, 50%.
Yeah.
That alone is going to save $250, $300 billion. The things I just mentioned, just on healthcare, add up to about $1 trillion. $1 trillion can truly be saved while we're strengthening Medicaid, strengthening Medicare, and strengthening the subsidies to those who deserve them through I'll call it the ACA, which I don't like calling it the Affordable Care Act.
It's the UCA.
It's the UCA.
Unaffordable. You should copyright some of the stuff. I told you that. It's bumper sticker worthy. A couple of comments. You said a lot. A couple of comments. Two of the things I mentioned to you off air, that I'd read a wonderful editorial in the Washington Examiner, and they have people that actually broke down statistically where all this went south with the Affordable Care Act. One of the things they did right off the get back in 2011 was they added to Medicaid housing, food, and transportation. And I'm saying, I know there's some tangential relation, of course, but we're talking about medical care, health care. People have a medical issue. They need to have insurance to pay for their hospital and all that. That's what Medicaid was supposed to cover and be a safety net for people who couldn't afford it. That was the point of it. Yeah. Did well for decades and decades. Well, then all of a sudden, food, transportation, that would fall more under food stamp programs, SNAP programs, which are separate, and other things. So, that was one thing that happened. And the second big part of their analysis, they pointed out that during the Biden presidency, one of his regular executive agencies issued regulations that allowed for reimbursement to certain taxes that were incurred by states in their administration of the Medicaid program. They called it a premium tax. Now, ironically, the states that utilized this device, Dan, I did mention off air to you, were the blue states. Nowhere else. California, New York, Illinois, states like that. So what they did is they sent these folks to the sanctuary cities, to the blue states. The blue states, under their state program, put them in their state bill under codes that had to be, they were found by Elon Musk. That's how they found them. They discovered them in codes. And all of a sudden, that got put into the reimbursement. And all the federal government did under Biden was pay that bill. The cost per person for the Medicaid portion of the health care bill in states, the blue states, Dan, 300 to 400% higher than Texas, Florida, or any red state. Well, the point is, you know why it's that much higher? That's where the illegals were getting put on the rolls without anybody knowing about it. So,
Well,
you want to clear up? You want waste, fraud, and abuse? Right there. They're two big chunks.
I wouldn't say without anybody knowing about it. I think it was pretty darn deliberate.
They hid in plain sight.
Yeah, and it's their way of pushing out entitlements so as, for what other purpose would a political leader do that? To gain their support.
All right. Get their votes to lock up the future elections.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And the other thing I mentioned earlier, the Association of Health Plans, the AHPs, it's outrageous. See, the thing is, the Democrats want a one-payer system.
Of course.
And
Nationalized medicine.
Nationalized medicine, okay? So the government runs it all, okay? When meanwhile, employer-based healthcare insurance has always proven far more effective. And then people engage in it. People, you do walking programs. They get bonus for not smoking, things of that nature. The government can no way manage 1/6 of our economy in that manner, and it will be a disaster. And it's proven to be on a regular basis. Okay, look, Medicare is terrific. Medicare is not going anywhere. Nobody should be worried about it. But it was designed for older Americans, right? For seniors over 65 and such, and some people with other conditions a little bit younger.
Right.
But it can't. You make it for everyone, you'll ruin it for everyone.
That's what Obamacare tried to do.
And you eliminate competition. I mean, why that? Why can't it even be closer to the model of car insurance, right? You can even advertise. Go ahead and advertise which network you want to be a part of, and allow all doctors to be part of that network.
And look, we can go and spend a whole nother show on all of the falsities of Obamacare. Things like you can keep your doctor, lie. You can stay in your health network, lie.
Right.
It's just it's a mess. Regrettably, Dan, we are out of time. Believe it or not. Thank you for making the trip up to be with us today. You helped make good history, as you have done for your 7 years in Congress so far. So thanks so much, my friend. Pleasure as always.
Last word.
Always.
We had a Veterans Day not too long ago. Men and women who fought for our country and sacrificed for our country. They didn't fight for the red. They didn't fight for the blue. They fought for the red, white, and blue. And I urged my colleagues last night on the House floor to think about following that example, following their lead. Let's vote. Let's start doing truly for the red, white, and blue. And I mean it with all my heart.
I know you do. And I will say, just add from your lips to God's ears. Thanks. Again, we're here today with our very own United States Congressman Dan Meuser, who made history last night. America is moving again. We've opened up our country again. He voted for that and helped bring it about. And more importantly, the second half of this show, he talked about where we go from here, because there are issues now we are confronting, we realize it, that we have to address in this country. The voters realize it, and they said so last Tuesday. We'll be back next week. We expect it will be with another person who didn't make it up as quickly as Dan, but our other United States Congressman, Rob Bresnahan, will talk about our moving forward and out of this morass the Democrats created.